I guess post lunch time, so people are still gathering in. So it's good to have this discussion. We'll try to not make it monotonous. We'll make it more conversational, and we'll also leave some time for Q&A if possible. Though there is 5 of us, and so we'll see accordingly how it goes. We're talking about policy and power, right? Two most important things from this whole growth of digital infrastructure, data centers in this country. How do we grow? How do we have the possible numbers that we're talking about of 1.5 gig to 10, 12, 14, gigs in the next 5-6 years? And those numbers are phenomenal that we're talking about, right? All this can't happen if there is no focus on the policies, if there is no focus on having power in the country, if there is a combination of the two, and government and the private, working together on this. That's for a given. So I think we'll touch base on these points. We'll just, focus on what are the critical things that we are seeing in the market, what's happening in this area, what is it that one needs to focus around, the top 2-3 things that can be taken up as a references that maybe globally things have happened in other countries that we have seen as successes. So we'll talk about all of that. We have a very, very mix of, companies over here represented by these panelists, and they can give their perspectives and talk about all these areas. So we'll start with maybe a quick intro and just a reference around, the thoughts around this topic. Let me just do a quick intro about myself. I'm Vinish, Bawa, partner with PwC, handling telecom and data centers as a sector. And this is one area that, almost every week we are having conversations with different countries around data center growth and how India is the, sort of in the middle of all this. So that's me. Maybe we'll start with Kamlesh, yourself, on a quick intro and your initial thoughts.
Thank you, Vinish. Thank you so much, W.Media, for giving me this opportunity to talk on energy and power. My name is Kamlesh Harchandani. I'm part of Digital Edge India. We are present in 9 countries as a data center colo player. I'm working as a Chief Construction and Development Officer for India Data Center. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So myself, Rajesh, I'm from Guidance Interface Department. So I work with Projects Excellence Divisions. I'm part of grounding of the projects in the state. I closely work for the data center for the past 4 years and grounding like 4-5 data centers in the state. Thank you.
Well, let's move on.
Good afternoon, friends. I believe in one thing, which is nothing is impossible. And it's possible, and I am possible. And come from the city of palace called Mysore, and my full name is Ashok Mysore. And currently, I am the CEO of Global Green Grid Data Center, which is G3 Data Center, which I wanted to build a unique way of building the data center in the way we are evolving as a data evolving in India. That's how I wanted to build with the best customer experience and one of the highest tolerant data centers in India. Thank you.
Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Dr. Bondada Raghavendra. I am from Hyderabad, Bondada Group. I'm the Chairman and Managing Director of Bondada Group. We guys are into telecom infrastructure and power infrastructure. Basically, we do the solar EPC power plants construction and IPP power plants and battery energy storage system. Recently, we also ventured into the defense manufacturing and the data centers because we know the data center requirements, fiber and power requirements, renewable energy requirement. So in data center space, actually, we are going to provide that complete infrastructure elements to the hyperscalers. And also we have a lot of energy conservative products manufacturing across AP and Telangana and Maharashtra. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ivan Sam. I represent a company called Volt UPC Data Centers India Private Limited. This is a Dutch-based JV. Volt Data Centers is a data center group that exists in US, EU zone and Middle East. And UPC is a Dutch-based renewables company. This JV has started a data center company in India. UPC is already present in India with about existing renewable capacity, which is solar plus wind and battery systems to the tune of about 3.5 gigawatts. My role would be to set up a 1 gigawatt green data center pipeline with green energy provided by the Volt UPC group, and we setting up the data centers. Our initial pilot program of 100 megawatts is already decided in Bharat Future City in Telangana, and I am on the lookout for further opportunities across, and I'm looking forward to interact with Rajesh more on this.
Thank you. This is great.
I request organizers to send audience actually. We came all the way from far off distances actually to speak to the audiences actually. So better organizers to send all the people audience to the inside the hall from the lunch.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm sure they would be doing that. But this is a great mix. I think we have, a US company wants to invest into India, coming up, setting up plans. We have a, powerhouse in terms of different businesses getting into data centers, a green energy company. We have an operator, and we have the government. So, it'll be good to get the different perspectives. So, Kamlesh, maybe, we're talking about policies and, the regulatory part. Now, you've worked across different regions, etc. So, in your view, you would have seen things happening in Southeast Asia and nearby geographies, etc., on the policy framework. So, any learnings, any thoughts on what has happened there that can be replicated here, or things that have worked, and, how different it is, just to get a thought on this space?
Thank you, Vinish. Before I talk about the comparison with respect to policies and power from a Southeast Asian market to India, I'll just give you perspective that while everyone is proposing a data center to have a truly sustainable data center, but today data centers are not just a building and servers. It has become a strategic digital infrastructure supporting AI workloads, cloud, OTT, finance, banking, manufacturing, and digital economy. So I can say that today data center are national infrastructure than just a real estate. I think that's very key. And on the same time, India is increasingly becoming a attractive destination for hyperscaler to invest in data center segment. When you compare with the Southeast Asian market with respect to the regulatory certainty, the level of regulatory certainty, it's mixed and varies from state to state in India for utility power and other authority approvals. Okay, so I think the comparison is not just about which market is growing. I think it's all about which market is evolving. On the same time, investor finds certainty, scalability, and the confidence for investment. That's very key for any investor to come in India. But of course, there are certain advantages being in India, developing a data center. I mean, if I look at, if I talk about, what is the growing demand, there is a high domestic demand with respect to the, AI workload, which I said, OTT, cloud, the BFSI segment, manufacturing. So, and what actually, gives this high demand is India has emerged as a youngest working population on the earth today. I think that is what actually, creating a huge demand. And there is a large, land is available, and there is a scalability we can do. We have also seen, the emerging renewable energy ecosystem. And there is a large interest from all hyperscaler to, set up their data center in India. And most important, most of the state have implemented their data center policy, especially like Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Telangana, UP. I think this has really given, vision to the all states to come up their, own policies going forward. But actually what, gives an advantage here is having a experienced project team. India can deliver large scale campuses, large scale data center campuses, compared to matured Southeast Asian markets if approvals are stabilized. Of course, there are key challenges with respect to the current approval system. See, there is no lack of opportunity here. It's all about, the execution predictability. Okay. So, and I think every project required a lot of coordination with the various government agencies like State Industries Department, Pollution Control Board, Fire Authorities, Aviation, PISO, Electrical Inspectorate. And now, if you come back to the power is again a huge challenge in terms of approval in India, especially for power. Look at the approval chain. You have to carry out for feasibility and getting a ROW, and you get the grid connectivity. But on the same time, it's just not over. You get grid connectivity with certain conditions. Then there is a process of load, sanction, and approval. I think there is a good amount time goes in that. But when you compare with Southeast Asian markets, let's talk about Singapore. It has a structured approval system, quite robust regulatory framework, but the constraints is power, land and scalability. And other market like Malaysia, especially Johor has become an attractive destination for any hyperscaler to build DC over there. And there is a good coordination within the authorities, but slowly the constraint is going to come for power and water over a period of time. Right. Now, if I talk about, Indonesia and Vietnam, it's a high potential market for a data center to grow, but I think regulatory framework is still evolving, but there are certain, challenges, execution challenges, I would say. And if I look at Thailand, I think they have an industrial policy in place, but there is a moderate data center requirement. See, I think India can become a world global leader in digital infrastructure sector today. And what we require to become a global leader, I think. So most important, where we need to really work upon. First is, we should have an effective single window system for all approvals.
Yes, agreed.
Second is, creating a robust power infrastructure for a hyperscaler corridor.
Right.
And there has to be a renewable energy integration, not across the, not with the states, with national level.
Right.
And I think, the most important is, I would say, the time framework which is required for, data center life cycle to achieve. I think these are the points, where government can, or we as a developer can also work along with the government. But last point which I wanted to say is, again, reiterating that data center are national infrastructure today, not just a real estate. And execution predictability and transparency. This will definitely going to attract a long-term capital investment in India.
True.
And what India has an opportunity, which I would like to conclude, what India has an opportunity to convert demand leadership into the execution leadership.
No, very well summarized. Actually, you summarized all of it in the 3 points. But, you mentioned digital infrastructure as a foundation layer and fueling all sectors. Today, you can't have agriculture, farming going on, drones flying there for agriculture without a data center actually hosting all that data, right? So that's what we also say, and I think the policy frameworks have to be around it, that how this is fueling everything else. But, interestingly, sustainability was mentioned a couple of times, and Ashok, I'll move to you, around regulatory policies, talking about sustainability. How real is it, and where do you see that if there's any gap in this space?
See, on the sustainability aspect, why we need sustainability is the first key thing. Each one of us should be in a position to practice sustainability. That's the first message I would like to call upon. Sustainability is not related to what organization does or what other things does. But it was a practice which got implemented very long back in India, and from the message which we got it from UK and Western countries of the world. But today, any public IPO listed company or any public limited company all follows the sustainability. From the data center perspective, from the IT industry perspective, sustainability is the key thing which guides us to enable to implement and regulate on highest standards of sustainability practices. That's the first part. Each and every employee, each and every consumers who uses the data and the data center has to be enabled with the sustainability guidelines. That's the first part. Second thing is in the data center aspect, why sustainability is the key thing? Because we know, see, data is being a new oil, but oil definitely will exhaust at some point of time, right? The same way, if we are conserving from the day we started building the data center, sustainability will always help us to give it back at the long term. That's the key thing which we have to keep it in mind, that even each one of us to practice sustainability, either it in the form of electricity or controlling, conserving the power or conserving a diesel or any kind of thing when you are accessing the data. That is part. The second thing is the governance like ESG guidelines. We all have best practices which are available. And today we are seeing an improvement in these practices, measurable benefit out of these practices, and ROI, the return on investment of all the sustainability practices we are there. Even the safety guidelines, safety standards are in place as a part of I think Kamlesh can add to it because he being part of a construction and managing the thing. So these are all the kind of a thing which we need to enable the sustainability. The third thing is, what is environment? What we are giving back to environmental while we building the data center, while building the national infrastructure. That's the key thing where in terms of getting the power to a data center. And everyone knows that, right? In India has abundant solar power and renewable power currently available. If I can give you a simple math, there are about 20 to 25 gigawatts of solar power readily available in India as we speak. So that's where a lot more technology called BESS battery kind of a technology which we can consume at some point of time. These are all some of the things. That's a good enablement of practices which we started, and I'm sure it will take. The second thing is water conservation. And last is employee safety and the consumer safety. These are all part of a sustainability. We are seeing the fantastic result what we followed at the earlier stages of building the data center. And before that, the growth of data centers in India is crazy. So I was telling many people that why I am into data center build, why he is into data center. Everyone is into data center build. I'll give a simple fact. We are still less than 2% of the data center capacity compared to Western countries or US or UK. We are still to grow minimum 90 to 95%, which essentially talks about more than 75 to 80 gigawatts of capacity which we need to build. We are still in the nascent stage. While the growth is happening, at the same time, we all are committed to follow, implement, govern almost all the sustainability practices available, and new idea coming into sustainability also will help us to enable it faster.
This is good to hear that, that, and there is enough focus these days. Anybody who's building a data center, first thing is how green I can be, how sustainable I can be. So that, I think, trend is catching up. It's almost, fully there right now. But Dr. Bundara, you domestic player starting, getting into data centers, I think speed of execution is key for you, right? How fast you can implement, how fast you can get things moving. How does regulatory policies, hamper you or help you, and what's your view on that space to get, helping you to execute faster? Just wanted your thoughts on this.
Yeah, this policy, as Kamlesh ji said, that actually India has to evolve, that actually matured. States are coming with their different policies, and central we have policy. I think there should be a common policy for the entire nation. It's a national infrastructure. Data center nowadays is a national importance, national infrastructure. So I think we need to have a centrally, means from center actually the single window policy framework needs to be framed. It's already there, but there's a lot of amendments are required in that policy. And coming back to the speed of execution, data center means three strategic pieces, three important pieces which are required. One is the strategic location, that is land. Second one is the power. For that data center emits lot of heat, lot of power is the requirement for that cooling of these data centers. And third one is the high efficient reliable networks, fiber networks, which are high efficient and give more latency. So these three things are the main key elements, and some of the states are going ahead and then building these infrastructures. We at Bondada is into this giving the power requirements, round the clock power requirement, renewable energy, so from the solar and wind, and along with 24/7 battery energy storage systems, and also a fiber network. These three are the main key elements for to run the data centers. I think hyperscalers and then the DCOs should focus on their operations. People like us can involve in the execution and then make the speed of the execution for the data centers, because as you rightly said that actually we are at very nascent stage. We are just using 2%. And if you see that actually our Indian population is very youngest population and the usage of data is very huge. Abruptly we are using the data in India. So I think entire globe is looking at our India nation for that how to secure their data, how to establish their data centers. We must move fast in the execution space so that actually hyperscalers and even investors will get the good feeling and good confidence on an Indian infrastructure. And like strategic locations like Chennai, Vizag, Hyderabad, Mumbai, these places built lot of if you talk about that actually land is not a constraint at this point of time. Data centers can go vertically, means it can go in the silos, but power and network is the most key elements. Nowadays, power is the most key element for this running the data center. And as Kamlesh is rightly said that hell lot of approvals are required to get the power connections for these data centers. Our state governments needs to streamline these approvals and provide them that actually single window approval for these power connections, and people like us can go and then establish and provide the round the clock power, including best solutions. Because actually these data centers named as a green data centers, these have to run on as India is also already moving into the sustainable growth. So data centers should work on, you call it as a green data center, but you as a grey power, it's no meaning actually. Data center should operate on only green power. So these three are the key elements that actually needs to be focused on to speed up the execution of these data centers as per my
importantly,
knowledge.
I think speed of execution equal to having the network, having fiber, having power, land is for a given, right? So all of it together with regulatory support, you're sorted. I think demand, we all agree, is not an issue. I think that's the good part.
Yeah, we already associated with Microsoft in Hyderabad actually.
Yes.
We are providing some of these key factors to them. Even operating the data centers also we are doing it actually.
Right.
So it means that actually India is no lesser than Western countries actually. We have the capacity to operate data centers. We have the skill available in India to operate that hyperscale data centers. So I think we need to get that confidence and then move forward fast, and actually we should become a leader in the world, leader in the globe.
Completely agree. And moving on to Ivan, I think you guys are planning to launch into India. You must be choosing where to go. Each state has its own policy, right? And states are sort of giving good incentives, etc. But I would say there is still inconsistency in the policies among states. How critical is that for you, that there has to be a common framework for you to choose where to go, right? I mean, would it help you, or this inconsistency is actually a problem for you?
Very interesting question, Vinish. You asked, what does policy inconsistencies do? But I think firstly, let us clarify this concept of inconsistencies, right? One item, same concept, seen differently by two different states. Like I just mentioned that our group's idea is to have a pipeline of 1 gigawatt data centers across different states in India, right? So I want to do that. And my other arm, which is UPC Renewables, has renewable capacities available in different pockets in the country. The data center policy, the open access allows me to wheel this power from one state to take it to another state where my data center exists. That policy is available. But then here comes inconsistency, right? Different states view these, open access very differently.
Exactly.
So when I'm looking at a 100 megawatt pipeline, a 100 megawatt data center in one state and another state and another state, I'll also have to answer to the financiers who pay my, the projects, right? There's a financing team which is abroad, which is going to finance me. I'm going to give a patchwork of Excel sheet telling me that, okay, this state has got a policy, and then after 2 years, they've changed it to this. And then this state has changed it. So this inconsistency makes the investors sometimes nervous. They need, Kamlesh used the right word, predictability. That's something, when capital comes to India, that looks at predictability. And inconsistencies are resistances in the path of predictability. That is something which we need to look at it as a holistic way. Probably, I'm not the one who will say that states should not compete with each other. That competitive spirit is very essential. One of the reasons which Chennai excelled, because there was competition. But then the times are changing. It has to reboot itself, get ready, pull up its socks and then reinvent. That probably many of our panelists have been talking about that. Inconsistencies are resistances in the path of capital, and global capital flows in the path of least resistance. That's something I would like to mention. Yes, inconsistencies are there, and we as industry members, I go and deal with members who write policies. I've been sitting in the Association of Chambers of Commerce to tell them that what they should try and do at the central level to see what they can facilitate, makes states agree on certain things so that capital coming from abroad doesn't find resistance.
No, very well put, because that is one of the questions that a lot of private equities ask us when we also talk to a lot of these companies that, okay, what is the common policy framework in this space, right? So it's, while there is a lot of focus, there is a lot of policies happening, but still, because each state has its different view, the understanding becomes different as well. So that's, I think, the key problem here. But, I think you're the best person to maybe give a view, because you're into policies and investments and everything for the state. So, your experience in this space, I mean, you can represent the state, but in general, I think that's going to be common for all the other states as well. But happy to hear your view.
As everyone said, there is a 3 pillar for the data centers. That is, one is land, then power, and the landing cable. And the fourth one is the facilitation side and the support of the government. So all this to be included. So Chennai is already established an emerging data center hub. We have 2 data centers location, that is one is Siriseri and one is in Ambattur. So apart from this, we are also exploring more options in and around Chennai also to cater all the needs of the data center industries. What are they said about the land? The proximity of the land for the cable landing stations, that is around the land. And the next one is power. Usually data center will not cater into one substation. They usually prefer for the 2 substations around the 2 substation sources to be 2 different areas. So that is also we have catered, and one dedicated substation we are planning to set up inside the park. So we are planning to set up a data center park, so which is about 50 acres we are planning to identify around the Chennai region. So where we planning to have a dedicated 230 kV substation that is initially enough for the cater to for the initial needs of the data center companies, as well as the submarine cables also we are providing. On this, the fourth side on the land aspect. So what are the lands which is a clear title land? So you no need to go for the legal wettings or any revenue documentation checks. It's already checked and the land is ready to start the construction. Where you're taking the land with the SIP card. SIP card is our land banks in this industries department. So where we are providing the land for the SIP card data centers, where you can plug and play the start activities. So where you no need to go for multiple clearances, where we have the single window system where you can have the environment clearances, your building plan approval, your power facilities, everything will be catered into this single window system for this, the land which is going to take in the SIP card parks, as well as not only the Chennai region. So we are also exploring more options in the southern side and the western belts of the Tamil Nadu as well. So we identified 2-3 districts to cater the future demands for the data center. One is in Thoothukudi and another one is Coimbatore and Madurai. These also we are finding out the feasibility studies where in Thoothukudi we have more power feasibilities and the landing cables also available, and we have sufficient land to cater the future needs also. Wherever the new data edge centers and the gigawatt centers can be planned in Thoothukudi also, that is also we are planning to cater the needs also. Where data center companies are now exploring that ESG norms where they want to go for the green capacities. In Thoothukudi, there is a power hub for Tamil Nadu, where we have more green power also, and the credibility also is high. If you want the grid sources, that is also available. And all this, the studies that we cater from the existing players in the Tamil Nadu, as well as we will be having a frequent roundtable with the data center players to understand what is the future needs and what might be the requirement from the government. That is also we are doing a regular basis to understand the needs of the future needs, and based on that we are also planning the new substations for the future needs also. Okay. So we will get the 2-3 years data for the power generations. Based on that, we will be putting up the new substation for the needs also.
And good point you're mentioning is tier 3, tier 4 cities are also in the scheme of things in this whole ecosystem rather than just the metros. I think that's the key. I think going forward, most of the states will have to do that. With this growth, you can't do a 15 gig or 13 gig with just the 3 metros that we're talking about, right? We still have maybe 5 minutes, so 1 minute each, maybe Kamlesh, starting from you. No, whenever we talk to companies, and you, since you lead the construction area, de-risking power procurement comes up as an issue. That how do I de-risk power procurement? What are the top couple of things that I need to worry about building a data center? That how can I de-risk power procurement? What's your thoughts on this?
Thank you. I think what Rajesh mentioned about we are creating a 50-acre land where the power will be made available. I think days have gone when we used to talk about the data center capacity of a 50 megawatt or 40 megawatt 80. Now it has scaled beyond 100 megawatt, even touching a 500 megawatt for the campus. I think it's the right time for us to really see a land availability which can scale in gigawatt, not in the megawatt. And if I have to give you perspective in terms of a de-risking of a power procurement, and if I have to give you a global scenario also, so we have to adopt having a reactive approach to the the integrated infrastructure model, where for example in matured markets the data center players do engage with the utility power providers much earlier to the land acquisition. It's happening in India now, but we used to make earlier as a parallel activity. Similarly, with respect to the, if I have to talk about another global market, especially South Asian market like Singapore and Malaysia, they have a pre-planned, the digital infrastructure zone. So you have a power, land, and other infrastructures also. But India is also coming with, the pre-planned hyperscaler corridors. Give an example like Hyderabad, Vizag, Navi Mumbai, there are a few more to actually come. And what we have seen, to de-risk the power, procurement, globally they have a diversified power procurement with respect to, with the grid connectivity, having, the PPA agreement, and with the any captive source. But what is, difficult for India is, to have a certainty on the power policy infrastructure in place. I think that's where, the key points is the competitive advantage we will get only with the energy predictability. Power availability is not an operational issue. It is an investor confidence issue. And India, I think, has a significant opportunity, where the much coordination requires among developers, regulators, policymaker for making a more effective planning.
Sure. And I think, again, you pretty much summarized the whole question. But Mr. Rao, in your view, EPC, from an infrastructure, putting things together, the getting importance of power, availability from a grid perspective, how to do it faster. What's your view? What's the main bottleneck there?
Yeah, so developers can look at that data center can be one state and then the power plant can be in another state. There's a lot of wheeling facility is there, but otherwise also if it is okay. Large scale data centers, they can have their own microgrids where they have dedicated power plant and then having the battery energy storage system also. Right now we have a lot of dependency on China, but actually going forward that supply chain issues can be resolved because a lot of technologies are coming into it, because this data centers requires round the clock power, that reliable power can be looked at actually is a microgrids, their own power plants and then their own battery storage systems, and then getting power directly from that power plant to this data centers, supplying up power instead of getting into the national grid or state grids, because national and state grids you have, even though you have power availability, there is a lot of issues are there and voltage issues and then power cut issues, but microgrids can be sustainable solutions for the data centers.
Ivan, on the same topic, from a financial trade-off, putting power all the time available, putting it quicker and faster versus, putting the finances into it. What's your view on how do you do the trade-off from a finances perspective?
Yeah, so when it comes to financing, we'll have to have many things that work together. Investor who puts money into the scheme should see first predictability of the cash flow that he is going to put in without seeing resistance. He should see operation availability at the earliest. That speed, everybody talked about speed. Third thing is he should see an exit. He needs money back, right? Nobody wants to perpetually do an investment and walk out without a return. He should see returns. What we are going to facilitate in India as a whole is that we are posing to the world that we are the cheapest place to build if you are looking at top 5 economies in the world. Cheapest place to build. The world's supply chain is broken. I mean, if you go to market for a generator of more than 3.5 gigawatts, 3.5 megawatts each, you're not looking at 3 or 4 months. But what we build in India, we can give a same generator or transformer in 4 months. So we have a better supply chain when compared to the world. We have better talent when compared to the world. Readily available. We people have one magic available with us, that's flexibility. I can make an electronics engineer do electrical work in data centers. And data centers are in a frame of time where we are requiring such people. A data center engineer is not a guy who's just running hardware or running non-IT. He should know a little bit of IT so that the non-IT can, extend its arm. So this is the right time, and India is recognized as the right place for capital. So I don't see any reason why capital will not come to the country. Are we willing to take it, and are we up for it, given the challenges that our panel members mentioned? That is where we are.
Lastly, on Ashokji, how do you make sure you don't compromise reliability and put in the sustainability part into data centers without sort of compromising on the reliability? Couple of just very quick thoughts on this, since time is almost up.
No, I'll take few quick things. See, there are certain things in data center will never be compromised. One is security. Second is sustainability. Third is SLA. All start with S. SLA is how best we can give as an SLA. Can we give 100% commitment of an SLA to all our customers? That's the first part. The second thing is data centers are like much more secured compared to anywhere. It's like that one thing. Sustainability is never compromised agenda for any person, not only as a CEO, as for all the employee. That's where it starts. That's why the first message I said it should start from the employee or whoever who is operating in the data center. That one. Sustainability, to answer your question in a simple way, sustainability is a never compromised agenda for any person who is building not only data center, for all the data center related activity. So that's the thing. And safety is also added advantage. for while building the data center and while operating the data center, which is essentially part of a sustainability, which gives us a better return at a longer run. Thank you.
And one last thing with you, Rajesh, on the state policy over here, is there something more going on in terms of attracting global players into the country, making sure there is no power shortage, anything? Any couple of quick comments from a policy framework perspective?
Yes, so we are building more confidence on the investors to come in to invest in the state. So we are creating a more opportunities, and what are the availability opportunities that we want to cater from the investors. We are just welcoming with the red carpet, come and invest. What are the facility which is required and support that we are there to help them to out. So all these things points out what are the, they face some issues about the water, the power and the infrastructures and the clearances. All those things we have taken care, and we will build the confidence with the investors who want the invest in the state, that we will take care of it, and we are welcoming all the investors to invest in the state. So not alone Maharashtra and Vizag, Chennai is also there for the market for data center.
And that we are seeing very visibly. But this is great. I think there is no reason now, this 10, 15 gigawatts is definitely going to happen in the next coming years. But thanks a lot to all the panelists. I know time was always short in these kind of discussions, but thanks for all the thoughts and thanks for being here. Thank you.